Hello Answerly viewers, welcome to the first discussion video of Eleanor and Park. I'm a little embarrassed because in my introduction I was calling the author Rainbow Powell, which is totally wrong. It's Rainbow Rowell. Rowell. So we're off to a really great start. Anyway, you should have read chapters 1 through 15 of Eleanor and Park over the last week. I've heard from a lot of you on Twitter that maybe you accidentally finished the whole book, and I totally get it. I had a really hard time stopping at 15 last night, but I didn't want to get ahead to have it, impact this discussion negatively. So I stopped at 15, and I'm going to make this as fast as possible so I can keep reading. So, Eleanor and Park is an adorable, freaking adorable romance set in the 1980s, which I didn't know. It opens in 1986. I actually really didn't know much about this book at all when I picked it up and decided to read it. I just heard that it was amazing. So it's set in 1986, and that means that there's a lot of differences to modern day, obviously. There's a lot of references that I either don't get or know are from, way before we are at right now. I read a lot of books set in modern day, and I read a lot of books set in the post-apocalyptic future, but I don't actually read a lot of books set before I was born. So this has been kind of a new and interesting experience. I think that one of my favorite parts of this book so far is the keen and ridiculously insightful attention to detail when it comes to high school. A lot of books can sort of fall into the category of just stereotyping out high school, and you've got the bullies, you've got the uncomfortableness of being a teenager in those years. But I think that this book really captures it in a way that was actually kind of horrifying to me. That, that scene at the beginning where Eleanor gets on the bus and doesn't know where to sit because everyone looks really mean and obviously doesn't want to share their seat with her because everyone's already picked their seats, was really, really too true. It was too true to the actual experience that one might go through in something like that. And a lot of times I think books can take it too far and make it a little too overdramatic, but the fact that the very small act of getting on a bus, not knowing anybody, and not knowing the rules of how it works and where you're allowed to sit is a really weirdly terrifying experience in high school, and I think this book does a really, really good job of capturing that. One of my favorite small moments was when Park starts realizing that Eleanor is reading his comics, and then more so when Eleanor realizes that Park is letting her read it on purpose when he's actually waiting for her to finish and, looking to make sure that she's done before he turns the page. I melted a little bit when I read that scene. It was just so cute. I also find it very interesting that we are introduced to Eleanor as this weird girl that we don't know anything about, and that's all you know, until it switches to her life. And then as you go on, her life becomes increasingly more tragic. And right away, you kind of worry that she's got this manic pixie dream girl vibe going on, but I think it's definitely still got that to a small extent, but it sort of turns it on its head because Park's actually the one who's sort of got it together a little more, as much as you can, being a 16-year-old in high school, whereas Eleanor's life is the saddest thing ever, but Park doesn't know it yet. So it's this interesting learning about these characters while they learn about each other, but they're, quite a few steps behind where we the readers are in learning about them, which keeps it really sweet, and I don't think it falls too much into that manic pixie dream girl problematic area as you might think that it would when you first start reading the book. I thought that the phrase Eve's reading was really, really cute. I actually bookmarked that page because I wanted to make sure to bring it up in this video. I also bookmarked another page that had a little excerpt that I just wanted to share because I think it's been my favorite so far. I really liked the part about her mother when she was saying she used to make Eleanor tell her everything. "What's going on up there?" she'd say, knocking on the top of Eleanor's head. "Are you making yourself crazy?" Her mom hadn't said anything like that since Eleanor moved home. She seemed to realize she'd lost her right to knock. I just love that line. I think it very, very much explains the relationship that she has with her mother, a mother who's trying, but really, really isn't. Eleanor's mom, forced her to come home, but she still really isn't welcome in this house that's, filled with her family and this repugnant man that I'm really actually curious to see what happens with him. One of my biggest questions about this book is whether Reggie is just going to be a horrible, miserable character throughout the entire book and what's going to come of that, or if something's actually going to happen there. I don't think he's going to become redeemed in any way, but he just seems so terrible. And then parallel with all of the kids at school that are so terrible, there's a lot of two-dimensionally terrible characters in this book. I'm very much looking forward to seeing where that goes. I feel like something has to give somewhere, whether something breaks at her house with her family or something at school. You know, they can't continue to just be horrible forever because that would just be a depressing book. Although I have heard that the end of this book requires tissues, so I guess we'll see. One of my biggest questions is in the beginning, it opens with a tiny little excerpt that's clearly set into the future where Park is upset and he's remembering Eleanor, and there is the phrase Eleanor, gone. And I don't know if this means that Eleanor dies or if she leaves forever or some other thing that might happen. They obviously want you to know that at the start of the book before you even start reading the story. And so it's this little tiny thing in the back of my mind that's sort of weighing on the story where obviously this is going to end badly, and I don't know if I should expect the worst or something slightly less worse. So I'm curious, most of all, how that has been affecting or did affect your read through of the book. And I'm curious what your thoughts are as to where it's going. Obviously, if you've already read Eleanor Park, please don't spoil it for the rest of us, but you are welcome to continue to be part of the discussion if you can keep those spoilers in check. That is all for this week. I hope you're enjoying the book so far. If you haven't started it yet, those first 15 chapters are a breeze to get through, and the ones that you'll be reading for next week are chapters 16 through 30. It's such a quick read. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I hope you're enjoying the new Answerly Book Club, and I'll see you next week.